Conquering Vietnam. You guys ever see that show? Good show, good show. Watch it. All right, so today we're going to talk about the Persian Wars. All right, and hopefully, as we go through these notes, Greek history will make sense. So the first Persian War is the Battle of Marathon, essentially. Now you have to understand that if we take a look at this right here, if you look at the map, all of these red dots on here were Greek colonies that you can see were under the Persian Empire's control. And they revolted. And one of the things that they did when they revolted against Persia was they went back to Athens and said, Athens, oh, please help us, help us. We are Greek brothers, you know, obviously we're different city-states, but we are Greeks and will you help us? And so Athens, even though they weren't very powerful yet, they were relatively unknown in the world, they said sure. Well, that was the time of Darius and the Persian king. And so Darius, the Persian king, put down the Ionian revolts, all those red dots where they revolted, put them down, and then said, Athens, we're going to come smack you around a little bit to prove a point that nobody goes against the Persian Empire. So they sent this whole big fleet over to Athens, okay? And now you can't really see it, and I don't know why they have blue water here, and then they draw Athens and Sparta essentially in blue as well, but that right there is land. And you can see, like, here's Sparta, and here's Athens. And so right here in red, it says the Battle of Marathon. And so what happens at the Battle of Marathon is the Greeks and their hoplite soldiers are able to fend off the Persian attack. All right? One of those things to where a much smaller force beat a larger force. But a lot of it was, I think, that Darius was unassuming that those people from Athens would fight as hard as they did for their city-state. And one of the biggest reasons why they fought as hard as they did was because by now you are getting the idea of democracy and this idea of the poorer classes having a vote that nowhere else throughout the world is this occurring. So people fought for that democracy. Lower classes were treated better. They fought as hard as they could. So it's a huge victory. But what happens is that the Greeks the Persians hop in their boats, and they're like, well, let's just go right around to Athens. We'll just go get them there. And this is where the famous runner, Philippides from Marathon, leaves and runs 26.2 miles back to Athens and says, they're coming. And everybody in Athens, the remaining people in Athens, get ready for it. The Navy gets ready, and then when the Persians come around, they're like, not a good situation, and they take off. Okay? So a very big win. Darius is obviously very mad about it, and before he has a chance to come back, he dies. His son Xerxes the Jerxes, comes in, takes over, and brings this huge army for the Second Persian War. This is then where 300 Spartans defend the pass at Thermopylae, give the rest of the Greeks time to get back to Athens, get in the ships, and then that's the Battle of Salamis, where, the Persian fleet follows the Athenian navy into narrow, rocky waters, and the Athenian ships ram them, sink all the ships, and essentially win the war. Okay? So now, this is what then leads to the next phase of Athenian life, all right? And that is the Delian League is formed. Persia's been beaten, left, come back, beaten again. So in the Greeks' mind, what's next? They're going to come back. So when they leave after the Second Persian War, all the Greek city-states get together and they say, hey, let's form this league, a Delian League. And it's just one of the city-states was the name of it. But essentially what it was that it was a military agreement that if one of us gets attacked, we all come to help each other out. Well, Athens goes to everybody and says, listen, it was us and Sparta that pretty much beat them. And now we know that Sparta just wants to get back to their slave population, military training, and just staying where they're at. They want nothing to do with the outside world. And so Athens is like, well, let Sparta get back to doing what they want to do. We'll take care of the defense part. Everybody just pay us money. And we'll build the fleets. We'll build keep the armies and that kind of stuff growing. And so everybody's like, okay. So all this money starts pouring into Athens. And it gets to a point to where they start getting so big that they're like, you know what? Why don't we take this money and spend it on some things, okay? And at the end of the Second Persian War, after the Spartans had held them off at Thermopylae, the bay, where there's 300 Spartans, and the Persians come down. Remember, they burned the city of Athens. Everybody in Athens got out of the city, into the boats, and left. So Athens is burned down. So when they come back and they start the Delian League, they start using this money to rebuild Athens. Okay? This is where they build the Parthenon. This is where they have all of their money on, like, you could come down into Athens and see free plays, Greek tragedies, Greek dramas. People could come into, they used to hold jury trials there. So, you go to court, and if you wanted to sit in on a jury that day, you could just sit on it, and they would pay you money. And everybody was just, there was tons of building, tons of jobs. Athens was doing great, okay? It was by far the greatest place in Greece. It was by far one of the most advanced civilizations of its time. But remember, Athens is not going out and conquering anybody. They are not ruling vast lands like the Persian Empire. They are just a small city-state, smaller, like southeastern Detroit. It's like the Metro Detroit area is what they are. But they are kicking butt as far as philosophers, scientists, mathematicians, like Pythagorean's theorem, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. All of these guys are coming from Athens. Okay? Well, after a while, all of these other city-states that are paying money into this Delian League are like, you know what? We don't think Persia's coming back. So we're not going to do this whole pay you money anymore for protection. And Athens is like, no way, man. We've got a good gig going here. We're building things. We've become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And they start forcing other city-states to pay them the money. Well, now, if you are a smaller Greek city-state and Athens is bullying you, who do you go to for help? Sparta, right? You go to their neighbors who are known for kicking butt. Well, Sparta doesn't want anything to do with this. But Athens is dumb enough to kick the hornet's nest. And they go down to Sparta and they tell Sparta, I know you've been talking to the other city-states. And if you do anything, we're going to kick your butt. Bad decision, right? Nobody walks into Sparta's backyard and says, you better watch yourself. So Sparta says, all right, well, guess what? We're going to form the Peloponnesian League. And so all of these city-states that were giving money to the Delian League, like, switch sides and go over with Sparta. And so now there's the Delian League and the Peloponnesian League. And Athens goes down, and they take their ships, and they surround Sparta. But if you think about it, Sparta is self-sufficient, isn't it? They've got 10-to-1 in slave population to Spartan population, and put boats outside. I don't care. We grow everything we need here. We have no need for anything that comes from the outside world. So Athens is like, dang it. So they go back up home. Sparta says, I'm not going to tolerate you guys trying to hurt us. So they march right into Athens, surround the city of Athens, put it under a siege, and this is the Peloponnesian War now. And Athens has this plague that breaks out because nobody can leave the city. Trash, dead bodies, everything is staying inside the city. As a result, like over a third of the population dies. Their leader, Pericles, gets sick, he dies, and essentially after this, Athens starts a slow, gradual decline and is never what they are again. And they would have probably gone on much longer if they didn't get greedy. They would have just said, hey, you got it, we understand, you don't want to pay anymore, we'll still keep the league going, and that, but they didn't. And it ended up pretty much being their demise. So, with that being said, all right, well, we will stop here, and we'll start back up with Alexander the Great the next time I talk to you. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Meow, meow, meow.